Hey, and welcome to this Thirsty Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming today live as we do every single day, Monday to Friday, noon to 2 Eastern. And we're coming today live, of course. We're still on Broadway. Yes, we are. And we're in the Question Tequila Studios. We're well fortified. Jason, the CEO of Question, one of our favorite sponsors, sent down 3 cases. So we are loaded to the gills with tequila, and we are going to need it today because we have a whopper of a show for this Thirsty Thursday. Before getting into today's show, let's go downtown, right down the street to the New York Stock Exchange. The Dow today down about 50 after 2 days of recovering from the 450-point loss on Tuesday. The Dow was up almost 200, intraday over 200. It was up another 150 yesterday, so we regained most of those losses. And I think the market is starting to realize at this point that Donald Trump has pulled the leverage back to our side in the China trade talks by letting them know we're not in a rush. We don't have a red line in the sand. And he probably established a little more certainty for the markets, and the markets like it. Down about 40 today, not horrible. Bitcoin is up a bit today at 7,500. Still in the danger zone. I told you, I've been telling you for a while, I bought some Bitcoin at 8,000. I thought there was a buying opportunity there. Below 8,000 is a danger zone. It could go as low as 5,000. So stay alert, stay cautious, and remember, do not take any financial advice from me. I'm not a financial advisor. We have a packed show today talking about public companies and all great things that are going on in the market, value creation, income generation. But remember this again, I'm not a financial advisor. With lunch, I drink alcohol. So do not take advice from an advisor who drinks alcohol for a living. Joining me is someone who tries to stay sober and corrects all my mistakes. Sometimes. He's like my training wheels.
I have a
busy
afternoon, so I don't usually make a concerted effort to stay sober, but I am going to try for today's show. No more than one drink today for me.
No more than one?
No more than
one.
Well,
we'll try to break that for sure.
No.
Will your frankly speaking be more than 1 minute? Today.
Slightly.
Yesterday you had noted it would be about 2 minutes. It wound up being about 5. But they're always great and insightful.
Well, look, there's a ton of breaking news out there.
Is there?
Obviously, we're following this shooting at Pearl Harbor yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
In which 3 people are dead, including the sailor who was the assailant here. 2 Russians have been indicted for cyber hacking. We're keeping an eye on that. The Trump administration is being sued for wanting the social media data for foreigners that are coming into the country.
Love it.
The big news of the day, of course, is the fact that Nancy Pelosi, just about 3 hours ago, announced that she's asking the House to move forward with impeachment. This is why she said she is.
Are uncontested. The president abused his power for his own personal political benefit at the expense of our national security by withholding military aid and crucial Oval Office meeting in exchange for an announcement of an investigation into his political rival.
So why did this begin? Well, we've talked about it a lot, and obviously many of you remember this all began with military aid to Ukraine, which is precisely what I'm speaking frankly about. So all this talk about military aid to Ukraine, we have President Obama, who it was under his administration that Congress originally allocated this aid to Ukraine. He delayed it. The following Congress continued the policy of military aid to Ukraine, and the president, before delaying it, finally granted it. Now, the Pentagon wants $250 million more in lethal aid for Ukraine. That's the Trump administration's Defense Department wants to send another $250 million in aid to Ukraine. Now, you might say, well, what are the Democrats doing? Democrats are all for it. In an era where Republicans and Democrats can't agree on anything, they agree on this. The House, in their budget, they're including $250 million. And you might say, what about the guys in the Senate? What are they doing? Surely they're putting the brakes on things. No, they're for $300 million in military aid to Ukraine. So the question, the foreign policy debate in D.C. right now is not whether or not we should even be giving lethal aid to Ukraine. It's how much. Do we give $250 million or do we give $300 million? You know what my answer is and how much aid we should be giving to Ukraine? Lethal aid? 0. A big, fat Zero. We've talked about this before. Ukraine is of no strategic security importance to the United States. By giving weapons to Ukraine, we're not going to help them beat Russia. Russia has the second largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world. Russia wants to take over Ukraine tomorrow. I'll tell you what, another $300 million of American weapons is not going to help them. So why are we doing this? And why is no one talking about this? Well, almost no one.
We are.
So it's John and me.
That's us.
Tucker Carlson. It's Pat Buchanan, it's Tulsi Gabbard, it's Rand Paul, it's this new think tank, the Quincy Institute, and it's defense priorities. Other than that, everyone is in agreement that we need to be borrowing money to give to Ukraine so they can buy weapons. This is insane. This is insane. We have a country that we cannot pay our bills. We are running $1 trillion deficit every single year. How much more money are we going to borrow? For what? To give to a country to antagonize Russia when they are not an ally. They're not in NATO. This is insane. All the Russian separatists in the Donbass region of Ukraine, here's the God's honest truth, they want to be part of Russia. So what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And more importantly, why is no one asking the question? I'll tell you what my philosophy would be with respect to Ukraine. It would be the same as the preacher in Blazing Saddles when he gets a little too close to the fire when he escorts the new sheriff into town. You remember the classic Mel Brooks hit, Blazing Saddles. This is what happened.
Spiritual leader, I implore you to pay heed to this good book and what it has to say. Son, you're on your own.
You're on your own, Zelensky. Good luck. We're no longer borrowing any more money to give you to buy weapons. So the question that you need to be asking is, who's benefiting? Cui bono, right? Who's benefiting from us borrowing money to give to a foreign country to buy weapons? Well, it just so happens to be the military-industrial complex, the big defense contractors. And it just so happens that those companies happen to be making huge campaign contributions to your favorite congressman on the Hill and paying a lot of lobbyists to lobby for precisely this policy. This is insane, folks. Now, this has gotten buried in all the coverage of impeachment, but we're about to borrow $300 million to give to a foreign country to buy American weapons, to antagonize Russia. Why? Why? Are you taking over Hardball with Chris Matthews?
You said Blazing Saddles, and I think about my favorite scene in Blazing
yes,
Saddles.
the Eric Swalwell scene.
When they sit, the Eric Swalwell scene. No, I'm with you. I mean, we just keep printing money. We got this magic printing press down in Washington, and we just keep running this sucker.
Going down
it's not backed by gold. It's not backed by anything. It's backed by zilch, Zippo. It's a big credit card. And guess what? People forget about this. One of the, if not the, largest holders of U.S. debt, which allows us to overspend, is China. Okay? China buys our debt. They show up at Treasury auctions every single day and buy our debt. So if one day China, we really tick them off in these trade negotiations and they stop buying, the market will be down 5,000 points. Worse than that, if China shows up one day and says, you know, forget about not buying. Today we got this big batch of U.S. Treasury bonds and bills and notes. We had this crap laying around for years. We want to sell some. The market will be down 10,000 points. So we're running a really tricky game here because China's friends with Russia. We're borrowing $300 million basically from China to give Ukraine Javelin missiles to blow up Russian tanks. If Russia calls their friends in China and says, why don't you stop buying U.S. bonds, all this good stuff that the president is doing is out the window.
And
so
you know
be
why,
careful.
John, you know why that analysis was so much more astute than the people that watch and tweet at me during the show? Because Twitter user BeMoreLife21224 says to me, are you being serious, Frank? Now, his knowledge of grammar is about as much as his knowledge of foreign policy, because then instead of including a question mark, he includes a period. And then he says, let Russia take over the Ukraine, see what happens after that. Again, poor spacing after the period in that sentence, because there's actually no spacing, it's an I.
Come on, don't be a grammar police.
Do you know
on
what
Twitter.
Be More Life?
I don't like
you
that.
want to know what an authority on Eastern European politics Be More Life is? He says
He went to Vienna with Devin Nunes?
He says the Ukraine. take over the Ukraine.
I say that
Again,
sometimes,
no,
too.
we
Everybody
kicked you
says
with that habit.
All right.
We kicked you with that habit. And Be More Life, if you disagree with me on funding for the Ukraine, then at least know that it's not the Ukraine. It's Ukraine.
Just Ukraine. I think we've said.
If you're going to say the Ukraine, say the Russia. And say the Canada.
I think
and
we've
say the
said
England. It's not the Ukraine.
I think we've said Ukraine and beat the Ukrainian horse to death.
Well, apparently
in this
we haven't beat it
segment,
through Be More Life 21-22-4's thick skull.
We're going to get into a little earlier. We heard from Nancy Pelosi. I want to put odds. What was the guy we had on from that gambling site? I want to start a bet. Remember the guy?
Frank Angemi?
Frank Angemi. I want to start a bet because I don't know if you noticed, but I watch these things. Every time Nancy Pelosi talks, she is spending so much energy trying to keep her teeth in her mouth that I can't even focus on what she's saying. And Joe Biden has the same problem. His teeth almost came flying out in the last debate. I want to put a prop bet up. Whose teeth are going to actually fall out first, Nancy Pelosi's or Joe Biden's? Because I don't know, between the two of them, Joe Biden left the White House 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, with a net worth stated on his income statements of between minus 700,000 and plus 400,000. So he was worth basically zero when he left as vice president. His son gets hired by Burisma just the year before he leaves, 2 years before he leaves. And lo and behold, 2.5 years later, Joe and Jill Biden are worth $11 million. I wonder how that happened. How do you go from zero to 11 million in 2 years? That's good. He was making 700 grand as a professor. I'm going to talk about this a little later on because I didn't like when Nancy Pelosi last week called Donald Trump an imposter because there are a lot of things about her that may make her the actual imposter. But we're going to get into how someone has been in Congress for like 30 years, making a standard salary of between $70,000 and now $170,000, is worth $100 million. Nancy Pelosi is worth $100 million. Okay, put that in your purse. We're going to talk about that a little later in segment 5. Kyle, can you show me GFX3, please, to end this segment? We got a whopper of a show coming up today. Bill Cortez and Jeff Guillot are going to be here to mix it up. That's when I'm going to have a drink. Annette Rayner, CEO of InvestView, is going to be here. Take a look at this chart. I've been talking to you guys at home about InvestView for months now. I personally joined the company as their chief digital officer on October 2nd. Fully disclosed, I want you to know I'm a shareholder. I have some say in guiding the forward strategy of the company.
No.
I'm not telling you to buy stock. This is not a solicitation. I'm telling you what I've done. I have a personal stake in the company. I have a vested interest in the company doing well and building value going forward. And that's going to be here in a little bit to talk to you why she's appointed a new CEO. And on the top of the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to have Joe Camarada, my former partner, and the new CEO of InvestView. Show me that chart one more time. But for those of you at home who are following along, getting to know InvestView, take a look at this chart. October is when I joined the company. The stock was about 1.1 cents. And since then, the stock is almost 5 cents. So I'm not telling you to buy penny stocks. Don't invest based on what I'm telling you as advice. Educate yourself. Make yourself aware. But I'm telling you what I've done and how much work I'm putting into this thing. I'm going to tell you a lot more about the company. Michael McHale's going to be here a little later on. And my favorite workplace attorney, Jonathan Bell, joins us in the second hour. Whopper of a Thirsty Thursday. We're going to mix it up. The only show on television that has a Democrat or Republican every single day. We're going to mix it up right after this.